Super Rugby round number 12. Goodness gracious me. A couple of hidings, a few records, a new team at the top of the log. We'll go through the round as it was for round 12. And you guys can let us know your thoughts. First game, Moana Pasifika Chiefs from Mount Smart was predicted to be a bit of a hiding. And sure enough, it was a bit of a hiding. Chiefs 43-7 winners. Moana Pasifika not doing themselves any favours when they got kind of double yellow cards on in the first half. They did get a consolation try towards the end of the game, so at least they didn't finish scoreless. But man, the Chiefs ran in some tries. Tupaia, Jacobson, Nane Saturo, ALB, Parker, Jacobson, Coombs, Fabling. Yeah. Big old bonus point win from the Chiefs. And yeah, that one was pretty much kind of as expected. Sadly for Moana Pasifika. But the Chiefs season, you know, they're up the right end of the table. They'll still be disappointed they've dropped the 3 games they have. But yeah, 43-7, can't really complain. And yeah, it was good to see Jacob, pull the strings at 10, because the last time he started at 10 was that game down in Christchurch. So good on him for getting that experience under the belt. Second game was one of the next kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 real close games. Reds, Rebels. The Reds on form were really predicted to kind of get this one done. I don't want to say in a canter, but like at home with the form they're in compared to where the Rebels are at, maybe relatively easily, but they had to chase the game for kind of large periods. It finishes with 4 tries to the Reds. Fassler, McCright, Campbell, and that man Tim Ryan getting another one. That's consecutive 3 weeks where he scored tries, and he's got 3 in one game, 2 in another, and then just the 1 this week. So kind of on the low side for him. For the Rebels, it was Callaway, Talakai, and Nabukalasi getting the kind of 72nd minute try, which at least made it game on at the death. But they lost Taniela Tupou early. Certainly didn't help. They did give themselves a chance to chase it, but as I said, Reds kind of able to hang on for that one. So yeah, the Reds are a really weird team this season. You genuinely feel like the Reds on their day could beat anyone, but could also lose to anyone. They're just kind of there or thereabouts. I mean, I guess that's better than where they could be. They're in their 5th spot, so can't complain too much. I don't think anyone's going to want to draw the Reds in the playoff round anyway. Next game from the Saturday games, that was the top of the table clash between the Blues and the Hurricanes, where I think like 26,000 people turned out to Eden Park. Probably the best attendance they've had this year. Afternoon game, that helps. Top of the table clash, that helps. New Zealand rival, that helps. And the game lived up to the billing, man. Really, really good game. A real tit-for-tat game. Both teams led for periods in that game, 31-27. The Blues hang on under immense pressure at the death. The Hurricanes scrum looked pretty good. The Blues lost Sullivan early. He'd been kind of chucked back into the starting lineup ahead of Forbes. Forbes had to come on pretty early, so hopefully Zahn gets back to fitness at some time. But they got tries through Heem, Forbes, Talea, and Ta'aval came off the bench. But the story of the Blues scoring was maybe the boot of Harry Plummer. He kicked all his goals, which is not something I would have thought possible if I'd seen him, when I saw him kicking a couple of years ago. So credit to him, man. That's a important kicking performance, which essentially won the Blues the day. Shields, Morby, Lakai, and TJ Perenara scored the tries for the Hurricanes, so TJ extends his lead as the top point scorer in Super Rugby. But like I said, man, scrum was good, and the Hurricanes could have easily won that game. That game could have genuinely gone either way. And then the next of the New Zealand derbies from down south, Highlanders, Crusaders. Highlanders break their drought over New Zealand teams. I think they said it's about 3 years since the Highlanders have beaten a New Zealand team. The Blues used to have that kind of dishonourable record for a while, where they hadn't beaten any New Zealand teams for a long time. This time it was the Highlanders, and they finally broke it 32-29. Score kind of seems a bit closer than it was. It was a consolation try from the Crusaders at the death, which brings it as close as it was. The Highlanders actually had it wrapped up before that. But again, it was a real tit-for-tat battle. Talea and Miller getting the tries for the Highlanders, and then the boot of Cameron Miller, 6 penalties from him, kept the scoreboard ticking over. So the discipline of the Crusaders comes into question. But Sever Reese gets a couple of tries. Dallas McLeod gets one. And then the consolation, but also losing bonus point try through Springer at the death. Pretty important. Yellow card to Fakatava was a pretty costly one for the Highlanders. Kind of let the Crusaders kind of get a bit of dominance back into the game. But the crowd was good also for that one. And like I said, The fact that the Highlanders managed to get a win over a New Zealand team, and the fact that this keeps the Crusaders kind of out the playoffs, just adds to the tension and the storylines of this season, which is, a pretty fascinating one. So, yeah, 32-29. Well done, Highlanders. That's done their playoff shots a bit of a bolstering, and then just to win over your rivals, first win over a New Zealand team, really, really important for them. Next game, New South Wales Brumbies. I didn't catch all of it. I caught most of it, but man, did it start raining in this game. Goodness me, the pitch was just had water, pools of water sitting on it because the rain was just came down so fast and so hard. It kind of just changed the nature of the game. And bloody hell, the jerseys, too similar. Whose bright idea was it to put two teams in white? It's so dumb. We had it the other week. I think Highlanders and Moana Pasifika was kind of similar as well. How hard is it to pick different colours for the jerseys? Or at least the shorts. Pick different colours. Super Rugby sometimes does the dumbest things with the jerseys, man. I know teams want to wear their special jerseys for special occasions and whatnot, but if they clash, one of you needs to give way to the other. It's not hard. Anyway, 21-29, the Brumbies record over the Waratahs continues. They haven't been beaten by the Waratahs in a bloody long time now. 4 tries from the Brumbies, 3 from the Tars. Jake Gordon scored a bit of a screamer, to kind of bolster the Waratahs' chances, but it wasn't enough in the wet. But it was still pretty interesting game. Bit of an arm wrestle. It felt like a bit of a drag initially after watching the 2 previous games, but it did kind of start to spice up as things got a bit wet and slippery down there up there in Sydney. The final game was a bit of a hiding. I didn't see this one at all, but I've seen the highlights. The Force. Goodness me, who saw them putting 48 points to 10 over the Drua? I don't think many. That was speaking of records, I think that's the Force's biggest win in Super Rugby since 2009. 15 years. 48 points. Big bonus point win for the Force. It's quite incredible. The Drua don't travel well, and the Force tend to be a better team at home, but I didn't see that becoming almost 50 points for the Force. Tia Tizano, especially the second half. Wells, Faifua, Kunzel, Donaldson with that 6 step at the end. Oh, goodness me. That was kind of Fijian-esque in the way he just backed himself to go around the fullback. Rover Tamanda got the 1 try for the Drua, but man, slick hands from the Force guys. Just played some really expansive, exciting rugby. So from what I've seen of it, really, really pleasing for them. How does that thing leave the standings? The Blues are now in first. They've overtaken the Canes on 45 points. The Canes are second on 43. Those are the top 2. And rounding out the top 4 are the Brumbies and the Chiefs on 39 and 38 respectively. Then you got the other 4 playoff qualified teams in the Reds, Rebels, Highlanders and Drua. But there's a big difference between 5th and 8th. 31 points, 17 points. It's almost double the pointage that the Reds are on. So the Reds are in this really weird spot where they seem to be a cut above the teams immediately below them, but a cut below the teams immediately above them. That's why I say you feel like they could beat the Blues, Hurricanes, Brumbies or Chiefs, but they could lose to any of the teams below them. So, it makes for an interesting playoff run. Just outside the playoffs are the Force, only 2 points behind the Drua, Moana Pasifika, Crusaders and Waratahs. So, the Crusaders, despite the fact that they're in 11th, with this 2-9 record, 1 win will put them into the playoffs. So nobody's really dead and buried just yet. But the fact that the Drua lost that game as much as they did means the Crusaders have actually closed the gap on the Drua on the playoffs because they got that losing bonus point. But as I said, other teams are still in the hunt. Next week's coming games. Hurricanes take on Moana Pasifika. One would expect the Hurricanes to get maximum points out of that one at home. Rebels Chiefs, the fact that it's in Melbourne makes that one slightly tasty, but the Rebels form, they played all right this week, but it's not great. And the Chiefs are pretty red hot, so Chiefs will be favourites. Drua Reds, that one is a home game for the Drua, which makes it a big, old, different prospect. The Drua, like I said, to hang on to that 8th spot, need some points in these last 3 rounds. Brumbies, Crusaders. Crusaders also need points, but going to Canberra right now seems tough. Blues, Highlanders. Blues at home will back themselves to get more points out of that one, but Highlanders will be motivated and have now got that New Zealand monkey off the back thing. And then the Force at home to the Waratahs. The Force, if they're going to make the playoffs, will need to win at home and against the bottom place Waratahs will certainly need to pick up points there. So that is how things are looking after 12 rounds of Super Rugby. If you want $10, apparently Sharesies is giving away $10 for people who sign up. I've got $40 in my Sharesies account. I opened it a couple of years ago when one of my workmates sent me a link to sign up. I needed my driver's license to sign up. I think it's in Australia and New Zealand. So if you want $10 in your Sharesies account, if you haven't signed up, I'll put a link down there. And then I get $10 as well. $10 for you, $10 for me. Happy days for $10. Check it out anyway if you're in New Zealand or Australia, down in the description. But anyway, Super Rugby round 12. You guys let us know your thoughts, and happy Mother's Day. Talk to you guys again soon. See you later.